Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mice, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory, prices, and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I'm Evan Erwin, and we get started this week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hello.
Ruben Bressler.
Hi. I should have looked up how to say hello in Greek. That's what I should.
Oh, that'll work better.
Aren't you Greek?
I am a quarter Greek.
Oh, you're that guy. Okay.
My mom is half Greek. The Veyas are from southern Macedonia, the Macedonia region of Greece, if you know anything about that political fracas. There you go.
Fracas.
More than you ever wanted to know.
I'm a big fan of Jonathan
lineage.
Fracas. Does that count?
Very
I
nice.
don't know who that is.
I know.
That's William Riker.
That's Riker, dude.
Frakes.
Frakes.
It was a joke.
It was, she was...
It was both funny
You know,
and
when
well
a
executed.
when a word sounds like another word, that's a punt. We also begin with our choice of the top comment from last week in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Ruben will tell us who was the most eloquent and letting us know what card we did not choose as one of our top 10 auras. Ruben?
This week's winner comes to us from the Facebook. Martin Magard Boltson writes, not a top 10 aura card by any means, but one of the most iconic auras of all time, although not an aura in its first few printings. Unholy Strength. It definitely contributed to my interest in MTG back in the 90s. Unholy Strength, of course, first seeing play in or print in Alpha. 1 black mana, enchant creature. Target creature gains +2/+1.
Yeah, if you go all the way back, at least through, what was it, through Revised, there was a pentagram behind the character on Unholy Strength. And let me tell you, being from what you would describe as the Bible Belt of America, that was not cool. And I made sure that my mother never saw that card.
Yep.
Just
There
saying.
were a lot of demonic references. There was like demonic attorney. There was like contract from below. You know, there was a weird sort of sub theme there that led to this almost like satanic panic. I remember I'm a big fan of Unsolved Mysteries, and I remember there was an episode in like one of the later seasons where there were two people. There was a couple that got murdered, and they didn't say Magic the Gathering, but they had basically alluded to this card game that they played that somehow might have conspired to their bring them to their deaths, and it was hilarious. It was like, are you serious?
Pretty sure they're talking about Cardfight Vanguard.
Pretty sure. Well, Unholy
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Strength is a definite classic, and thanks, Martin, for being a part of the show. Congratulations to you. Please contact Erin on social media before she blocks you on all of them.
I don't block people on Facebook.
Okay, all right. Thanks
I
again.
should start though.
That's an interesting line to draw in the sand.
It's a whole new world out there. It's a fresh block list, and somebody's got to paint those strokes. Your name, and your name, and your name. That said, thanks again to CoolStuffInc.com for sponsoring this giveaway, and stay tuned for our top 10 list this week, and maybe you can win next week's free gift certificate, which means that we get to move on here to our top 10 Theros Beyond Death cards.
That's right.
Got to go back, checked out the list for top 10 Throne of Eldraine. Ruben and I did have Oko, but then he switched his out for Once Upon a Time because neither of us had it on our list, which we totally should have, but,
Yep.
here we are.
Whatever.
Fun stuff. Ready to talk about some sweet new Theros cards.
So ready?
Overall, I think the set is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It does feel a little odd because I'm so used to, like, it was one of the last sets that had the 3 releases, the first, big, little. And so there was a sort of like progression there. There was also a story progression there. And as much as Wizards has abandoned it, at least I felt like things were changing and characters were changing and all the cards were really, disappointing. But it was really cool to kind of see it, ebb and flow and turn into bestow and stuff over time and all those really sweet mechanics. This one feels, everything's kind of squished in, and it's there, and the gameplay looks cool, and we'll see how all this graveyard stuff, this is a set basically made for Aaron. This is Aaron's love letter to Magic, is everything is about the graveyard, and the graveyard gets so much interaction.
Well,
all
it's
these
funny
cards
because
say
when I'm
graveyard.
not playing graveyard decks, I love Enchantress decks. And so this
Right.
really is my peanut butter and my chocolate in one
Absolutely.
set. So even when the graveyard things may not have been, thrilling me, there are a lot of Enchantress toys out there, which I'm certainly going to cover tonight.
Well, then let's get started. Aaron, what is your number 10?
There's a tradition that I like to follow whenever we do a top 10 show revolving around a set. I like to cover the cards that we've been fortunate enough to get as preview cards, because not every creator gets one. And we're really, really fortunate that we've had, 24 preview cards, and maybe more than that in the history of us doing this show. And Wizards, thinks enough of us to keep giving us more and keep giving us rares and sometimes a mythic rare. And so this was our preview card for the set. It's a bit of a silly card. We've kind of found our niche of these sort of green fatties that, are kind of weird. The listeners had a really good time figuring out what you could do with this card. If you do open this card at the pre-release, or if you do play it in any format, tag us and let us know that, because it feels really good to know that our preview card is seeing play. My number 10 is Nessian Boar. So Nessian Boar is 3 colorless and 2 green. It is a 10/6 Boar. That's 10 power and 6 toughness. All creatures able to block Nessian Boar do so. So it's got this sort of lure effect on it. Whenever Nessian Boar becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller draws a card. So our listeners were coming up with really neat ways to sort of break this or make this more playable. You can strap an Embercleave on it. You can play Narset so that they can't draw the extra cards. You can play Underworld Dreams, which nobody knew was in the set until the last minute. And if they want to draw those cards, they can take some damage too. So there's all sorts of neat synergy with this card. But it's just a fun giant pig that you can sort of throw at people and have a really good time.
One of the cards they pointed out, and something actually I saw today in MTG Nerd Girl's limited review that you can read on coolstuffing.com, was a 1-drop Alseed of Life's Bounty. This is the first card of the set, the number 1 card of the set number of the set. It's just a 1 white, 1/1 with lifelink, but it has 1 generic mana. Sacrifice it. Target creature or enchantment you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. And this is the perfect type of creature to use that type of effect on, to smack your opponent. A 10/6, never been made before. This is the only one, which is really cool.
And somebody did the math, and I guess there's like a formula breakdown of this going back to the boar meme, the feral pigs meme, 10/6 square root of something. It all tracks.
30 to 50
feral hogs.
Feral hogs.
Yeah.
Is... Okay, sure, I'll buy it.
It's somewhere on Twitter. We got tagged in it, but...
Very nice. Ruben, what's your number 10?
For me, the reference here is the Erymanthian Boar, which is the 4th of Hercules' labors, the boar that terrorized the countryside and all that. And you'll notice a theme with my top 10. I didn't pick good cards. I didn't pick cards I thought were going to break standard. I didn't pick Oko for number 1. These are cards that made me smile and happy when I recognized them from Greek myth.
Okay.
And I want to lead things off with Athreos Shroud-Veiled, which is the buy a box promo for the set. Athreos Shroud-Veiled is 4 colorless white-black for a 4/7 legendary enchantment creature god. It is indestructible, and as long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, Athreos isn't a creature. At the beginning of your end step, put a coin counter on another target creature. Whenever a creature with a coin counter on it dies or is put into exile, return that card to the battlefield under your control. This, of course, harkening back to Charon, who is the ferryman of the river Styx, taking the souls of the newly deceased across the river into the realm of the dead. And the coin, you have to pay Charon for passage. Don't use a real coin, by the way, even if it's a penny, in your local pre-release, as that can theoretically be termed bribery. I've heard from judges. If you have like a quarter or anything, it's not good. Use a not money coin or a piece of paper or something else.
People don't even really have coins these days. It's like, can I use my ATM
When's
card?
the last time anyone's carried change?
It's true.
Exactly.
But if you happen to have a coin, make sure it does not have monetary value. This card's really cool. And the coin counter is something I'd never seen before and was really resonant for me.
I think this card is great. This is the buy a box promo. This is where you like, from a business perspective, you want to sell all of your buy a box promos. You want it to be exciting enough that people want to come in and do this. And you also, by the way, for the buy a box, you also get a foil Nyx land. And because Wizards screwed up, you get a Nyx land and a foil Nyx land for free. How about that? Good job. Because they sent out non-foils and they're like, oops, we told them, and then they did it. But it's fine. Athreos Shroud-Veiled, just as a 6 mana enchantment, is kind of cool. but I think if you're able to turn it on and have smash in for 4 is nice. But again, it's got to have that right mix of numbers to like, hey, I want to make this a commander. Hey, I want to play this in my casual decks. We don't want this to be a standard all-star. And I'm fairly certain that this, this ability could have been pushed to 5 or even 4 mana if they really, really wanted it to be great. Yeah. And instead we have, some that should be
6.
tame.
And see, I feel differently. I feel like, a god is good when it doesn't even have to be a creature. Like, when you look at Erebos or you look at Thassa, it's nice having Thassa on, it's nice having Mogus on or whatever, but just by themselves, Mogus with that detrimental sacrifice ability and Erebos just being a greed that turns off life gain, you were perfectly fine just having them as indestructible enchantments.
Yeah. There you go. All right. So my number 10 is a card that Rosewater talked about a little bit today. And it's a card that does something very, very unique. And it's so unique and it's so cool. And I feel like I'm going to have the most fun resolving this card. And that even, weeks later, months later, after we've played with Theros a lot and we've played with Theros Standard and we're just done whatever, I just can't imagine not enjoying taking 3 cards off the top of my library, giving them to my opponent, and letting them choose 2 a face down pile and a face up pile, and I get to pick one. And that's amazing. Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths, is a black, blue, and 2 generic mana. It is a rare legendary human advisor. It's a 3/2 with menace. So 4 mana, 3/2 with menace. Whoopty. Okay. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent looks at the top 3 cards of your library and separates them into a face-down pile and a face-up pile. Put one pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. Oh my god, the mind games you're going to be able to play with this. The fact that you're going to show them something like good, but like their planeswalker is face down and they don't know that. They'll take the face down and it ends up being a basic land and their 2 really awesome spells just go to the bin. Like, there's so many cool mind games here. This is not Fact or Fiction. Fact or Fiction was definitely pushed, and Wizards doesn't like that. They don't like making sort of people feel like kind of idiots, and like you can really make people feel kind of like idiots if you're playing Fact or Fiction against them. But Spikes love that
close.
Crap.
This is pretty close.
This is very close, and I think that the numbers aren't quite there to make it constructed viable. Just 2 toughness is not a lot of toughness.
Yeah.
But it's card advantage, and it's very good.
The deck that you're running this in is blue-black, so it's, blue-black mid-range deck, maybe a Hero of Precinct 1 kind of deck. Those decks are already running Elite Guard Mage. Those decks are already running 4-mana medium card advantage kind of cards. I would not be surprised if this were a constructed playable card. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all of every deck in Standard, but, it wouldn't shock me.
It just seems
Commander
really
can
good.
have a lot of fun with this card if you pair it with something like Conjurer's Closet. There's all sorts of blinking effects you can do. And so, if you're able to get more use out of the effect, you could have a lot of fun with it. And it's just a 3/2 body with Menace, which is fine.
I mean, this and Thassa lets you do the ability every single turn, which is awesome. So I think Atris is very, very good. That said, let's move on here to number 9. I only have 2 hires, and this is one of them.
Oh.
So, Ruben, what's your number 9?
How many of the 12 labors of Hercules do you think that you could name? I already gave you the Boar. Do you think you could name any of the 12 labors?
I could probably name more episodes of Hercules than I could the actual
Fair
labors.
enough. Or sing more songs from the Disney original movie.
You mean Huncules?
That's right.
Come on, En Vogue.
Originally, I was going to make my list, the 10 labors of Hercules, but there weren't enough direct references. There were a couple. But the only one that ended up making my final list was the Nemean Lion, which was a monstrous lion that had hide so tough that no arrow could pierce it. Hercules managed to stun the beast with his club and then strangled it to death with his bare hands. Then he skinned the lion with its own claws and wore it as its own armor.
Jeez.
That's what Bronzehide Lion is.
It's true.
Bronzehide Lion is a 3/3 for white-green. It's a 3/3 for 2. Creature, cat. With pay a green and a white : Bronzehide Lion gains indestructible until end of turn. When Bronzehide Lion dies, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchant creature you control, and pay a green and a white, enchant a creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and it loses all other abilities. So it starts as a Watchwolf that can become indestructible. The Fleecemane Lion and Watchwolf progeny, I should say. And when it dies, it comes back and puts stability on another creature that you have. Super aggressively costed, obviously. Regular Watchwolf is long in the rearview mirror.
Ha.
But Bronzehide Lion is here.
Yeah.
Way too... indestructible things can still be dealt with, either if you don't have the mana to pay for it or if you have any sort of minus effects. So I really like the way that they're doing this card with indestructible. You know, I think it's really cool. I like the fact that it can sort of enchant something else, you know, giving you the sort of bestow effect without actually calling it bestow. The fact that it can, you know, enhance your other creatures. I really like this. I think it's a neat take.
Yeah, it's weird because for Fleece Main, they had the ability, like you had the monstrosity ability to turn it from a 3/3 into a 4/4. And that often matters a lot. I mean, you know, 3 toughness is vulnerable in a variety of ways that 4 toughness isn't. So being able to give it indestructible is cool, but also having an extra power to suddenly be taking 20% of a life total every time also increases the clock. So while Bronzehide Lion I think is cool, I'm not sure it's pushed enough to make it inconstructed, just because it doesn't go any further, if that makes sense.
Well, the good news about Bronzehide Lion is also that it can come back and it has, you know, if you go 1-drop Bronzehide and they lightning strike your Bronzehide, it can come back on the 1-drop.
Sure.
So that's nice.
All right.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Here.
definitely.
What's number 9?
So there's been a lot of talk lately about white not being very good. People are wondering what's going on with white. You know, why isn't white getting certain cards? There was a green card that lets you like bounce an enchantment, and people were like, this should have been white. There's a white board wipe that came out that's basically like a Day of Judgment or a Wrath of God, and people said it still wasn't good enough. So people really want white to be better, and I feel like Wizards even acknowledge that white has not been in the greatest place lately, and that, you know, they are taking steps to beef it up. But I did want to talk about one white card in particular that, even if it's not necessarily good per se or powerful per se, I do think it is playing in some interesting territory that I would like to see more of. My number 9 is Eidolon of Obstruction. So Eidolon of Obstruction is 1 colorless and a white. It's an enchantment creature spirit with 2 power and 1 toughness. First strike, and then loyalty abilities of planeswalkers. Your opponent's control cost 1 colorless more to activate. Beautiful art by Jason Rainville. But, you know, white really leaning on sort of the taxes side of things. You know, Death and Taxes is an archetype in a couple of formats now. And if they want white to really do this with cards like Tithe Taker and things like that, this is a really neat step you can take. I don't think we've ever seen this be done before, and it's also something you don't think about really when you're playing. I think we all just sort of take for granted that you're going to pay exactly 3 for your Oko, and then immediately plus it up, or whatever planeswalker you're running. But now you can't do that you have to have enough to actually cast it, and then if you don't have the mana, you're just kind of thin for a turn, or you have to have an extra mana if you want to come charging out of the gate. And so I think this is really, really neat. I think if they are going to keep continuing to give white this sort of effect and ability, this is a really great way to do that, and I look forward to seeing more.
Now, like there's stifle effects and there's like Tail's End or whatever that's currently legal. But the sort of the taxing part of, you can't use that ability, particularly on a planeswalker, without doing something extra. Far as I can remember, it's this thing, and the other spell is Whirlwind Denial, which is in the set in Theros Beyond Death, because it says for each spell and ability your opponents control, counter it unless its controller pays 4. So spell and ability, you know, I do my ultimate. No, you don't. Like, I mean, that's countering ability. That's pretty cool. Like, that's really neat.
That 3-mana counter spell is only there for Hydroid Crisis, but it is cute that it has effects against planeswalkers. This is the taxing as opposed to the counter unless something happens is hugely relevant. You know, for example, cards like Abrupt Decay that don't care about countering. You know, sometimes you want to have that extra tax on something like Tithe Taker as opposed to the retribution if you don't kind of deal. And yeah, I think that this card definitely has what it takes to make it.
Very nice. Let's move on here to number 8. Ruben, what's your number 8?
My number 8 is not going to see constructed play anywhere, and it has maybe the most corner case ability I've ever seen on most anything, but it just makes me happy. Mirror Shield is my number 8. Mirror Shield is a 2 colorless mana artifact equipment, and it equips for 2 colorless. The equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has hexproof, and whenever a creature with Death Touch blocks or becomes blocked by this creature, destroy that creature. Haha, gotcha, Gorgon people. This, of course, harkening back to the Medusa story, where Perseus was the one who was able to get the upper hand on the Gorgon Queen because he had a mirror shield and could divert the gaze back where it came from.
Very nice. And there's also, I mean, in Constructed, yes, wouldn't it be nice to live the dream and kill the questing beast? But they're not going to attack into your mirror shield. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's not,
never going to live.
Unless you had a way to like flash it in, maybe.
Right. But at that point, you're jumping through so many hoops to get +2, and you're like, no, it's silly. But flavor-wise, this is a gigantic win.
That's all I care about.
So
it just
cool.
makes me feel good when I read it. It's like, it doesn't need flavor text to tell you the story.
It is terrific. Aaron, what's number 8?
My number 8 is one of the first cards I think that really came out of the set when the previews officially started, and one of many that I was tagged in. This card foretells the return of a character that we had seen the first time around, and I was really happy to see them and anxious to see where this goes. My number 8 is Tymaret Calls the Dead. So Tymaret Calls the Dead is 2 colorless and a black. It's a saga, one of many from the new set. The first chapter says, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may exile a creature or enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So just for 3 mana, you can mill yourself for 6, which is really, really awesome, and possibly get a zombie or 2 out of the deal. And then the third chapter says you gain X life and scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. So if you were able to hit a zombie each time, you're gaining at least 2 life and scrying for 2. And that's not even including if you're playing a dedicated zombie deck, which you probably could do with what's available in Standard. And so this is a really neat way to kind of mill yourself. We've seen a couple of cards that allow you to eat enchantments. One of the downsides of playing a graveyard deck is that oftentimes you mill things that you might want. This allows you to get value out of that. So even if you're not able to cast those creatures or enchantments, you're still getting something for your trouble. And a card like this can easily get out of hand. It lets you gain life as a buffer. It lets you scry to filter away the garbage you don't need. I'm really excited to try this. I know I have a Daxos. One of my first commanders was Daxos, the Orzhov one. And I just might throw this in there and have myself a good time.
It's a pretty awesome card. I don't think it's quite History of Benalia, but it is very, very good.
Someone called it, there was a really great pun on it that somebody did. I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty awesome. It was like history of something.
It's as close to history as we're going to get. I mean, obviously that third chapter is nowhere near the Lord-like ability. But, multiples of this are going to stack up pretty quick, so...
Yeah. History of Dead Nalia. I can't remember what it was, but someone had a great little twist on it.
Stack of Skulls or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, Ruben ignores the constructed spikes.
That's right.
I do not. I get to talk about the goody goods.
Somebody's got to talk about magic cards as opposed to Greek history.
I got to talk about the rates, y'all, because the tournament spikes are all about the rates. What do you get for what you pay? That makes it exciting. I'm a Timmy Spike, so give it to me. And they certainly did. We have a card that has an ability that Wizards has been taught. They better be careful. Because if you let me sacrifice a creature for no mana, for no other cost, you give me a Woe Strider, you give me a goat, oh my goodness. For a black and 2 generic mana, I have a 3/2 rare horror. And when Woe Strider enters the battlefield, you create a 0/1 white goat creature token. Sacrifice another creature, scry 1, or escape, because why not? Every card does everything these days. For 2 black and 3 generic mana, you can exile 4 other cards from your graveyard, which means you may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost, and Woe Strider escapes with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So now you got a 5/4 and another goat that you can then sacrifice. You can do all sorts of sacrifice effects and fun things like stealing your opponent's creatures and sacrificing them, of course, getting those triggers and sacking them the way you want. Woe Strider is, I think, engineered to do something in a constructed format. I just don't know what it's going to do yet, but it's going to get there.
This was another one of the first few cards that was previewed, and I just couldn't believe it. Like, somebody had, of course, tagged me in it, and I was just like, what is this? Like, it just does so much. Everything it does is fantastic. It's reasonably costed in terms of the hard cast, and even the escape cost isn't too bad. Paying 5 mana and exiling 4 cards for a 4/3 with everything else is just amazing. And just the art on this, and I don't know, I think even LSV was really high on this card for a while, which is hard to do, but this card came out and just Twitter was just gagged. They were like, what on earth?
It escapes as a 5/4, not a 4/3. Yeah.
Oh, you're right, 5/4. I'm sorry.
Which is crazy good.
Yeah. It comes down with 3 power and 3 toughness, including the goat, and it comes back with 5 power and 5 toughness. If you search for creatures that have sacrifice another creature, scry 1, or sacrifice a creature, scry 1.
Not many.
It's not many. It's Viscera Seer and Bantu, but Bantu costs mana. Catacomb Sifter is close, and even that was tournament playable. Like, this is this has everything to be a tournament staple.
Yeah. It comes with its own parts. All it's comes with the batteries.
Comes with excess parts too. Look at the art.
Batteries included. Yeah.
I do like the last time Wizards made a goat token and this goat token, and we're like 2010 versus 2020 goat.
Yeah, the new goat has seen some things. It's had a hard life.
Well, it's getting eaten over and over again by a woe strider.
Oh God.
Oh, that's true. Wow.
All right, let's move over to number 7. Aaron, what's number 7?
It seems like this time around, they really want blue to get in on the enchantment goodness. We've seen a lot of blue enchantments. We've seen, a lot of constellation in blue, which we didn't really see before. And I'm completely here for it. And if there is any sort of blue enchantment constellation deck, you can rest assured that my number 7 will have a spot there. And maybe even in competitive standard, who knows? My number 7 is Ashiok's Erasure. So Ashiok's Erasure is 2 colorless and 2 blue. It is an enchantment with flash. When Ashiok's Erasure enters the battlefield, exile target spell. So it's like a spell queller in a way. So if something can't be countered, you can still eat it with this. That's really cool. Your opponents can't cast spells with the same name as the exile card. So it kind of has this Ixalan's binding effect on top of being a flash counter spell that can technically counter things that can't normally be countered. When Ashiok's Erasure leaves the battlefield, you get the exile card back. But this is really, really good. You get pips if you're playing the mono blue devotion deck. Enchantments typically are harder to deal with. Everybody can kill a spell queller. It's a creature. It's fine. But, can you deal with an enchantment? And if you can't, not only that, you also can't cast that spell again. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what people are able to capture with this. This is the return of Ashiok, who many of us have been clamoring for. And this is a really, really exciting card and a fun little space to play in for blue.
This is a hell of a counterspell. This is Wizards is giving you one of the best counterspells I've seen in years because this stops things like Niv Mizzet. Like, oh, he can't be countered. Yeah. Oh, that's real cute. That's real cute. I'm going to put this on the table here and that's going to go away. And we're never going to see Niv Mizzet for the rest of this game because this stops it forever. Right. The Ixalan's Binding plus the counterspell, Wizards wants this counterspell, I think in particular, to actually see play. It's an enchantment because that matters. It triggers all of your constellation stuff. It answers the uncounterable stuff. This is really, really sweet. I love this card.
Yeah.
Plus, situationally, you can bounce it back to your hand with something like Teferi. So if your opponent taps out for Niv Mizzet and you remove it, then they untap and play some, 7-drop. You can return your Erasure back to your hand in the meantime, and
or blink it.
Blink it, exactly. So yeah, perfect. Let's say they play Niv Mizzet, you Erasure it. Next turn, 7th mana, Kiora defeats the Sea God, and you blink your Erasure. They get their Niv Mizzet back to their hand, but now they can't resolve their giant game-breaking saga. It's pretty busted.
Yeah, in Commander you can do even more dumb things if you're playing Starfield next. You now have a 4/4. Sure. That can swing in there. You can even bring it back with that. You can play sort of Skybind type effects or, there's a lot of dumb things you can do. Tuvasa is a really popular commander. And so I'm anxious to see all the shenanigans you get into with those.
I got to play against Wilderness Reclamation just last night. And it's you take their Reclamation, what are they going to do? You take their Expansion Explosion, what are they going to do? That's kind of how they win the game. And you're shutting down all of their deck with this one card. It's really awesome. Yeah. What is your number 7, Ruben?
My number 7 is one of the Titans of the set. I imagine we'll get to the other one later, but I wanted to talk about this one so that I could talk about the Titans. There were 12 total Titans, 6 men and 6 women. I believe this one is probably Kronos.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Who was the leader of the Titans until the Titans fell and then were imprisoned later by the first Olympians. This is Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. For a black and a red, you get a 6/6 legendary creature Elder Giant. If that rate sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. When Kroxa enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. Whenever Kroxa enters the battlefield or attacks, because it's a Titan, each opponent discards a card, then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life, and it escapes for black, red, and exile 5 other cards from your graveyard. So if you're doing a self-mill strategy in black-red, you can certainly use this to great effect. This probably can slot right into those black-red aggressive strategies if you're as a sideboard option. Once they've wrathed away a bunch of your 2/1s for 1, you can buy them all back with Kroxa. And oh, by the way, you can take cards out of their hand in the process.
This card is ridiculous.
Yeah, this one didn't get as much fanfare as the other one, which we might talk about later, but I love this character. I love seeing them. They've been featured on some of their card art as well. It does the typical Rakdos things of, there's a burn element, there's a discard element. I mean, even if you're escaping 4 mana for a 6/6 with an ETB of a discard and a bolt, I could see a lot of black-red aggressive decks running this because you probably run a lot of burn spells you're not using. You can kind of go over the top, if you have to. I think this could definitely see play, and it's just a cool-looking creature, too.
Right, because essentially what you're doing is you're playing a black and a red, possibly bolting them or getting a good card out of their hand. And it's worded in such a way that if they have no cards in hand, they're definitely taking 3. Mm-hmm. And then later, you're going to pay 6 mana total to get a card, possibly bolt. You're going to get another card and possibly bolt. And then you're going to get to attack, and every single attack gets you that same trigger, gets another discard. Like, their hand is going to be empty very quickly, which means you can deal just 9 every turn with just Kroxa. This card is ridiculous. This card is, you play this after turn 1 Witch's Oven, and you put his Dying on the stack, sack, get 2 food.
Oh, man.
Oh, sweet. He just happens to be in my graveyard, and I got 2 food. Man, it sucks to be me,
dear.
right? I'm serious. This card is ridiculous.
I was thinking more of the Knights decks, having like that top end of like, here's a bunch of crappy creatures, and then eventually you can't go any higher. Well, this is a great way to circumvent that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about that one, but I know that Kroxa is just like, when they do stuff like this, when they make super low converted mana cost to super high power and toughness, it's always something goes wrong. Like, and we'll see if the other one really gets as wrong as people say it will. But all I know is my number 7, when we're in spoiler season, and spoiler season these days is just like hit after hit after hit. I can't. What does that do? Well, seriously? What's the rate on that card again? How many words are on that card? Are you for real? You're giving us a birthing pod for enchantments? Are we in the same? What? Enigmatic Incarnation is a blue, a green, and 2 generic mana because blue-green needed help, y'all. We really needed it. It's a rare enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment. If you do, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So you immediately start the birthing pod effect. You start just sacrificing enchantments left and right. You can sacrifice enchantment like auras. You can sacrifice enchantments, of course, like enchantment creatures. You're getting your constellations going to be triggering every turn. This card is ridiculous.
And you can go all the way up the chain, get yourself an Omniscience, get yourself the Overwhelming Splendor. All those enchantments you never thought you could reasonably cast. You're good news. You're still not going to cast them. But, it is possible to build your deck in such a way to, have a lot of fun.
Let me go into Magical Christmas Land for just a second.
Take us there.
Well, it has to be a creature that you're going to go get. It can't be an enchantment.
Right.
Oh,
still.
Yeah. Never mind.
So it is birthing pod, but just you sacrifice enchantments, not creatures.
Exactly.
Which could be
enchantment. I'm not as interested.
Turn 0, Leyline of Abundance. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. Turn 1, Gilded Goose. Turn 2, we play this. Sacrifice the Leyline of Abundance for a 5-drop on turn 2.
Oh, we got Leylines in the format with this ridiculous thing.
Right. So that is where I'm at with this card. I don't know what the 5-drop is that we're going to go get, but surely there's something worth getting for turn 2.
I'm expecting we can get a Nessian Boar.
Sure. Or
how
about a Cavalier of Thorns?
There you go. Saffron Olive's gonna have fun with this card.
Any old number of random garbage. I'd be happy to go get.
It is ready for foolishness. I was just blown away that we keep seeing all of these crazy powerful abilities on all these different cards. And I was like, and birthing pod for enchantments? I can't even. And yet we are, in fact, evening right now. All right, let's move on here to number 6. Aaron, what's number 6?
Speaking of powerful effects that have to do with enchantments, one of the neat things about seeing the way that cards are made nowadays is looking back and seeing what wizards wouldn't let us have or what they considered to be a rare and an uncommon, and then compare it to what we're getting nowadays. So for my number 6, I love to look at Gaia's Herald. Gaia's Herald was a card from Magic's, first came out in 8th edition. And it was,
I believe Gaia's Herald came out in Plane Shift.
Plane Chase, you're absolutely right. So it was 1 colorless and a green. It was a creature type elf for one. It was a 1/1 and it was a rare, and it said creature spells can't be countered by spells or abilities. This was a rare.
Yep.
We now have an uncommon that just does circles around this card, and its name is Destiny Spinner, which is also my new drag name. So Destiny Spinner is 1 colorless and a green. She has 2 power and 3 toughness.
So she's already,
Yeah, she's already. For an uncommon, creatures and enchantments you control cannot be countered. And that alone would be fine. Like, you would take that. But there's more. Mm-hmm. For 3 colorless and a green and a colon, so you can pump as much green as you want to, target land. Where did lands come from? Target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste until end of turn, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Why?
Yeah. This is a lot of words.
This card's a lot of words for
but
what
this is so good, you know.
This would definitely have been a mythic in Alara.
I mean, this is a really good card. This could even see Pioneer play, maybe even Legacy play. I mean, the fact that it makes your enchantments uncounterable is awesome, and the fact that it gives you another way to close out games. You know, sometimes Enchantress decks are known for being kind of pillow forty, where you're really great at stalling, you're really great at kind of building this fort, but how do you plan on winning the game? And you can either pay 15 mana and get an Emrakul, or you can get a Starfield to Nyx, or you can beat them down with Coursers or Krufix, or you can just turn your lands into these monsters. You're probably going to have a lot of enchantments laying around that maybe aren't doing anything. Well, now your lands are 3/3/4/4s and just coming at you. Like, this is beautiful.
I mean, Wizards would never print a mana flare on the Planeswalker that then makes the land creatures plus, 3+1/+1 counter. So when you activate it on that land, it gets +3/+3 more. And also it gets haste and trample. So now it's trampling. That's a fair, and Castle Garenbrig also helps to activate this. Yeah, that they didn't totally go hog wild on the unbelievably overpowered uncommon.
So, colorless and a green 2/3s with anything attached to them historically see standard play. Sylvan Advocate is a good example. Thorn Lieutenant is another example. This is gonna be a 4 of in at least one standard deck. It just remains to be seen what the shell looks like.
Yeah, if there's a green devotion deck, I cannot imagine this isn't in it. Like, it does just everything.
It's just like a Gruul aggro deck. Like, you just want to put this in your Embercleave deck, I assume. Like,
and the best is like Ashiok's Erasure's like, that's funny. I like you. You're funny. That's great. Ruben, what's number 6?
So Sisyphus. Are you familiar with Sisyphus?
I've heard.
Have we all gotten tested for Sisyphus?
The founder and first king of Ethera. Yeah, if you have Sisyphus, be sure to consult your doctor. I tried getting tested,
but it was a lot like rolling a rock up a hill. It was just
exactly right. And Sisyphus was punished to push a rock up a hill for all eternity because he cheated death and stole some of Zeus's secrets. Now, there's another god that is being punished for his crimes. His name is Heliod, and Heliod's punishment is similarly futile. Heliod's punishment is a colorless and a white for an enchantment aura enchant creature. Heliod's punishment enters the battlefield with 4 task counters on it. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and it loses all abilities. Not activated abilities. This isn't arrest. This is loses all abilities. And has remove a task counter from Heliod's punishment. Then if it has no task counters on it, destroy Heliod's punishment. That is plenty of time to get past whatever it is you need to get past. There is no activated, no triggered abilities, no passive abilities that could possibly stop you once Heliod's punishment is on the other side of the battlefield. And 4 turns is plenty of time. Usually it's more like 5 turns because they have to tap it that 4th time and then untap later.
Yeah.
This is one of the cards that really led to people saying we want the story, because this appears to be Heliod being punished. Heliod replacing Sisyphus. How did we get here? Like, Heliod has been sort of the villain or the anti-hero for, since the last Theros, killing Elspeth. We want to know how he got here. We want to know how he got here. We want to know why this is temporary. Does it mean he's getting out anytime soon? Like, this was the one card that people were like, we wish we had the story. More than any other card I saw on social media. Like, you just want to know what's going on here.
I mean, the story this time around was just an absolute disaster. The story parts, as we know, have left. The novels for War of the Spark were so derided and I don't know, ridiculous and bad. Just bad. Like, you know, you can hire a creative team to make these stories work and to write these things and to give them character and to give them emotion. And like Heliod's punishment is just like, now we have this random line on your story synopsis of, well, Erebos dropped a rock and eventually it's going to squish him. So, okay. But somehow you can tap to remove the task counters and get rid of Heliod's punishment. So is he going to be able to get...
Who knows? I mean, maybe he gets out eventually. I guess we'll have to read the story.
I mean, Elspeth and the gang found a secret, you know, hatch in Erebos' castle or whatever to get out, which is okay, which is whatever. And then suddenly they're spinning planeswalkers out of thin air now,
right?
And giving them sparks because that's what we do.
Athreos to get out and tossed a coin to the ferryman. So
nice, completely ridiculous, but. I want to include this card. Wizards, speaking of early spoilers, there was definitely an awesome promotion that Wizards did along with the Video Game Awards where when they were debuting the trailer for Theros Beyond Death, which was 100% underwhelming, but what they did do that was very whelming, as it were, was to say, surprise, you get to play with new cards right now. You get to play with an Elspeth deck or an Ashiok deck, which means you get to play with an Ashiok deck only because the Elspeth deck's terrible.
Because white cards.
I'll be honest, I didn't lose with the Elspeth deck. I could not buy a win with the Ashiok.
It's okay to play white. It's fine.
I played a little bit of both. They're both fine, really, I think. Yeah. But just, you know, confirmation bias, the gathering is 100% true. Yeah. Either way, it means you got to play with this fantastic Planeswalker. Ashiok Nightmare Muse is dope. I like Elspeth. I wanted Elspeth to be fantastic. I think she's going to be fine. But Ashiok Nightmare Muse, I think, is really, really sweet. For a black, a blue, and 3 generic mana, it is 5 loyalty on a mythic legendary Planeswalker Ashiok. For +1, you create a 2/3 blue and black nightmare creature token with, quote, whenever this creature attacks or blocks, each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library. -3, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, then that player exiles a card from their hand. Or -7, you may cast up to 3 face-up cards your opponents own from exile without paying their mana costs. So to play this, immediately go to 6, then go to 7. A 3-turn ultimate is in a black-blue mid-range control, I think totally doable. Mm-hmm. Stealing your spells is absolutely what Ashiok does, and that's great. And the power level, I think this card is very high. +1 to make a 2/3. That's a real ability. That's a scary thing.
Especially on a blue-black Planeswalker.
So OG Ashiok was a bit of a sleeper. Oh, yeah. I think that card didn't really start to see play until the tail end of Theros Standard, and even then it was good against like the Esper control decks played it, and then it was also surprisingly good against the green-red monstrosity decks. Yep. Because it just had no way to deal with it, and you would take all their fatties and you'd have a really good time. I like Planeswalkers that are designed like this. You know, this is obviously not a Planeswalker that everybody's going to want, but in the right deck, it's going to do its thing very well. And we've seen this with the new Kaya and the Liliana with the zombies. And so, you know, I'm really excited to see the decks that people put this in. It's really good to see Ashiok again. Again, I would love a story so I could figure out what's going on here and what nightmares have to do with the Underworld. But, you know, I will take Ashiok any way I can get Ashiok, and I'm glad they're here.
This is a really cool looking control finisher.
Yeah.
And it actually will end games because it can make 2/3s, as opposed to 5 mana Teferi, for example. Yeah, this card is really cool, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be a standard powerhouse. I
think being able to, like, when you plus this thing twice, regardless of whether you're going to fire off the ultimate, you have 2/3s that get these triggers just on attacking or blocking. They can just sit back and chump block, and you're losing cards over and over every single turn. We've never had a Planeswalker. I'm trying to think. I guess Garruk made 3/3s, right?
Yeah, Garruk makes 3/3s. Sarkhan makes 4/4s.
But we've never had anything that plussed to make a creature, let alone plus to make... No, we have plus for Elspeth Knight Errant.
I mean, there have been a couple pluses to make creatures. Garruk Wildspeaker, Elspeth Knight Errant, but not in blue-black, certainly.
Right. Garruk Wildspeaker minus to make a creature, but whatever. Yeah. Point Garruk is, this card is dope.
Hunter plus to make 3/3s. So.
Yes. So, either way, Ashiok's great. Card's great. Really excited for it. Can't wait to play it. Number 5. Aaron, what you got?
So the problem with a lot of Enchantress style cards, like the actual Enchantresses, is that they oftentimes just turn into roadblocks. They're 0/1s, you know, or they're 2/2s in the case of Eidolon of Blossoms, but they're not really able to go on the offensive, and they're certainly not able to go on the defensive. And so a lot of times you end up chump blocking with them, or you have to find some other way to win the game. You know, they'll help you draw cards, you know, they'll certainly keep the engine going, but you still have to find other ways to win the game. And one of the earliest cards that was previewed seemed to have an answer answer for that and seemed to give you a way around that and was really, really exciting and also changed the game a little bit in terms of how we've seen Constellation presented. My number 5 is Setessan Champion. Setessan Champion is 2 colorless and a green. It's a creature type human warrior. Note, it itself is not an enchantment. So this was one of the first times we saw a Constellation card that wasn't itself an enchantment. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card, and it's a 1/3. So this could be a win condition. This is an enchantress that can put up a fight, that can reasonably block if you cast enough enchantments, and is also just doing the enchantress thing of any time you play an enchantment, you draw a card. This could easily see Pioneer play, even standard play. Pioneer Enchantress has always felt like it's missing just 1 or 2 cards. We have Eidolon of Blossoms, we have the green-white one, we have the Starfield Mystic, but this would slot in really, really nicely with that. So I like that they're doing different things with Constellation, that they didn't pigeonhole themselves into that spot of everything must be an enchantment. And I also like the fact that this thing can get pretty big if you're just doing your thing with very little effort.
It's great that the design for Constellation cards needed to be take them away from the thing that they care about. That makes sense? Right. Which I think is really cool and clever. And yes, it's, arguably the natural progression or whatever. But again, I think that there's a really cool sort of gameplay element of, I need to play a bunch of enchantments, but I like to play things that, get really great bonuses from enchantments. And that balance is what makes it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
notably about this card, by the way, it is different than most enchantresses. In this one, triggers off of entering the battlefield as opposed to playing the card. So, for example, if you play the cat on turn 2 and then play this on turn 3, and your cat dies, it comes back as an enchantment, and you draw the card, even though it entered the battlefield and you didn't cast it.
Yeah.
What cat are we talking about?
The bronze lion that I talked about earlier.
Oh, that earlier cat. Okay.
The Nessian lion.
You're talking about cats these days. You know the one we're throwing in the oven.
Evan's surrounded by cats. I mean.
Hey, now.
Fair.
Ruben, what's your number 5?
My number 5 is, it just makes me very happy that we finally have a Minotaur that lives in a labyrinth.
Okay.
And so my number 5 is Scaphos Maze Warden. Scaphos Maze Warden is a 3 colorless and a red 3/4 uncommon. It's a Minotaur warrior. Is this thing in packs or is this just in a precon?
No, it's in packs.
This is in packs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this card's weird. So for colorless, you can make it get +1/-1 till end of turn. And whenever another creature becomes the target of an ability of a land you control named Labyrinth of Scaphos, you may have Scaphos Maze Warden fight that creature. And Labyrinth of Scaphos is kind of like a mystifying maze. It taps for a colorless, and then it also has pay 4 colorless and tap, remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat. So it's like a Maze of Ith kind of thing. I just like that this exists. It makes me happy.
This reminds me of, and I'm sure there are listeners who weren't around for this, but do you remember when Flowstone was a thing in Red? Yes. That was sort of Flowstone's thing, was a sort of plus-minus ability. I love this, and so this feels very Red to me. I like that it's a colorless splash. You can sort of pair it with red-black if you want to. I think Melissa DeTorres said on the pre-release that they had kind of made red-black out to be sort of the aristocrat colors, and we've seen that with another card called the Scophos War Leader, which we might talk about later, but I feel like this really plays into it well. Minotaur obviously, Theros, Greek mythology, have a home here. I'm excited to see all the different flavors of them, and it's just really cool, the fact that we have a labyrinth and a Minotaur.
I like that they put those two things together, which is cool. I like that when cards kind of refer to other cards. Yes. It's not something that Magic does very often. If you go to other card games, Lord God, every card is talking about some other card and go search for some other thing. And if you got so-and-so and such in your graveyard and blah, blah, blah.
It's mostly relegated to the Planeswalker decks, right? Mm-hmm. The only one I can think of is Gate to the Afterlife going and getting God Pharaoh's Gift. I can't think of any others. Yeah. So
on an art level, they gave Jason Rainville a lot to do in this set, and he knocked it out of the park every single time. And also go follow him on Twitter. He does a really good job kind of explaining his process. He includes a lot of behind the scenes shots, blueprints, GIFs, if you want to know how this art came to be.
So we're in the top 5, all right? Ooh. We're getting serious. This card is ridiculous. This card in any other timeline would be number 1 with a bullet, and we wouldn't be able to shut up about how stupid this thing is. and how crazy it is that there are cards that are banned that does a variety of the things that this thing does. Okay. This damn thing is a god. It's a god that is indestructible. Okay. And Clothys, God of Destiny, is our new red-green god. This card does freaking everything. It's a green, a red, and a generic mana. So 3 mana for a 4/5 indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and green is less than 7, it's not a creature. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land card, add a red or green mana. Otherwise, you gain 2 life, and Clothys deals 2 damage to each opponent. So every time you start your turn, you do something that Deathrite Shaman does. Deathrite Shaman is banned. That card is stupid. This card is ridiculous. On turn 2 after the goose, I'm going to just dome you for 2, drain you, in fact. It's not just doming. It's not just a shock. Oh, no. I get to continually gain life while taking life from you. A 4-point life swing every single turn, or you just ramped me. That's fantastic. What is going on?
So the storyline behind this is that she was the original Gruul god, the green-red god, whose vacancy paved the way for Xenagos to sort of do his thing. No one really explains where she went. Like, apparently she was just doing things. But she is the person that you see in the one saga that's responsible for binding the Titans. So she's the person who kind of reined the Titans in. This is incredible artwork by Magali, another level-up moment for her when you look at this. And the thing I'm struck by when I look at this character is this is a strong woman. A lot of times women are made to feel bad for being strong. You know, they're told they're masculine, they're told whatever. A lot of girls won't lift weights because they're afraid it makes them bulky. But look at her. Like, she is sturdy. Like, she is strong. She is wide. Like, this is a powerful character. And so I was just in awe of this. I saw a lot of girls say that they were very eager to try cosplaying her. This is just beautiful art. And the card happens to be very good as well, but I'd really like to know where she went.
Gosh, I bet the story of that would be super cool.
It would be.
She was busy binding the Titans. That's what she was doing.
She didn't need all that. I'm under the impression that happened a long time ago.
Sure.
But
maybe. It's a long walk back.
Yeah.
I really like Clothys for historic on Arena.
Nice.
Because there are like 20 cards that were added to historic from sets that weren't on Arena to begin with. And one of them was Burning Tree Emissary.
Oh,
boy, let me tell you how easy it is to turn on red-green devotion when you've got Burning Tree Emissary in your deck. You go turn 1, anyone, like Llanowar Elf, Pellet Collector, it doesn't matter. Turn 2, Burning Tree Emissary, Zerta Goblin. Turn 3 this. Or you go turn 1 Llanowar Elf, turn 2 this. Turn 3 Emissary, Gruul Spellbreaker attack you. Yeah, it's unreasonable.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. So yeah, this card is just dumb. They previewed her early. I thought it was like this is where the roller coaster starts. Yeah. And I'm just on number 5. Okay.
I also really like the way that they did Graveyard Hate in this set. Which is to say there are a lot of Graveyard Hate cards.
Yes.
But they're all kind of medium, right? Like, this is a 3-mana god that doesn't do anything to a graveyard until turn 4. Like, it's kind of incidental, almost, what it does. Most of the Graveyard Hate cards in this set are like that, as opposed to Leyline of the Void, Grafdigger's Cage, bash you over the head. The only thing that's even close to that is the staff, the 1-mana staff. Right. Everything else is, like, kind of incidental.
Yeah, which is nice, because normally when they give... So Wizards has this really bad habit, and I realize I'm biased saying this, but normally when they introduce a mechanic to a set, they usually give that mechanic a little bit of time to shine. Like, they won't start printing answers until, like, the next set. But whenever they do a graveyard thing, oh no, it's got to be in the same set. Like, they will not let you have that, or they're very careful to make sure that you don't have too much fun with that. And we can even see that with Escape. Like, I know when Escape was first previewed, I was looking for, like, the Gurmag Anglers. Like, I wanted, like, the broken 1-mana, 2-mana, and it's all kind of fair, which is fine. But you can tell that when it comes to graveyard cards, that Wizards very much has its eye on it and is terrified of anything happening.
Yeah, you want, like, I think Wizards at this point, they want more than just a safety valve. They want safety valves. They want safety hatches. They would also like, safety, doorways. Like, they want ways to not be stuck in a world that nothing gets done and played except these cards. cards.
Yeah.
And so, things like Erebos's intervention I thought was really brilliant, and that both halves of that card do a great job at well, you're solving this problem or you're solving that problem. And I really like that. All right. Let's see. Moving on here to number 4. Aaron, what's number 4?
I never would have dreamt that I would be the commander girl of the spoiler season. Anytime a card gets previewed, usually the grinders are first. They're like, oh, this will go good in this tier 1 strategy, and I'm going to go test with this. And then there's always the commander player that's like, this is going to go great in my Vela the Nightclad deck. And you're like, yeah, weirdo, go away.
Sure,
I never
nerd.
thought...
Casual.
I never dreamed that I would be that person. But when my next card was previewed, I knew exactly what commander deck that was going into. I knew exactly what card I was going to replace. And I have already pre-ordered it for $1. I don't care. Because my Muldrotha deck is absolutely going to love Gravebreaker Lamia. So Gravebreaker Lamia is 4 colorless and a black. It's an enchantment creature, Snake Lamia, which is with 4/4, which is fine, and lifelink.
What the hell's a Lamia? Can anybody?
A Lamia is a it's sort of like a centaur, monster. But isn't it like a snake lady?
Yeah, well, it's sort of a snake lady. It's a woman who became a monster. Come
on, D&D, tell them.
It's a long story.
Right.
Do you want me to go into it?
No, man. I think we've done enough. Thank you.
So she 4/4 lifelink for 5 mana. Fine, we'll take it. When she enters the battlefield, search your library for a card. Any card you want. Put it in your graveyard and then shuffle your library. That's Entomb. That is Entomb on a creature. And as if that's not good enough, spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. That cuts down on your escape costs. If you're playing Muldrotha, do you know how many cards you can cast for 1 colorless? That's a free either spell bomb. That's a free Nile spell bomb. There's so many dumb things you can do with this. This is going to replace Corpse Connoisseur for me. Yep. It's just it's a decent 4/4 lifelink body, which you will absolutely take. I am super excited about this card, and I can't wait to see what I can do with it.
Lamia was a child-devouring sea monster.
Yeah.
Or night-haunting daemon. She was the daughter of Poseidon and the mother of the monsters Scylla. Achelos? Achilles or something.
There needs to be a Kickstarter of you reading Greek mythology.
Lord.
So yeah, it's a lot.
Cacophony,
y'all. I swear to God.
And then the bird lady and the elephant lady
made themselves a shark. And I was like, oh my God, that's a shark, y'all.
Can you imagine Black getting a 5 mana 4/4 with lifelink 5 years ago? Not even looking at the rest of the card.
It's just
it's just a 5 mana 4/4 lifelinker.
And somehow the Entomb is not good enough. Somehow the Entomb has to be improved upon. Yeah. This isn't a legend. You can play multiples of this card, which could probably do stupid things.
Card's great. Card's really good.
Card's really super good. Ruben, what's number 4?
So I love the connection to the old stories, but I also love one card that is a self-contained story. And no card type is better at having self-contained story than the sagas. Yeah. And the most self-contained story that tells an entire story all by itself that harkens back to something that we have in the real world is the first Iroan games.
Yes.
I don't know if this is a good card. I also don't think it matters. The first Iroan games is a 2 colorless and a green saga enchantment. It is a rare. Chapter 1, make a 1/1 white human soldier token. Chapter 2, they get beefy. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, presumably the 1/1. Chapter 3 is if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, presumably the 1/1 that you turned into the 4/4, draw 2 cards. And then chapter 4, you win! Make a gold token!
Yay!
Hooray, we did it!
I love gold tokens.
Gold tokens are great. What in the world is this thing doing being green? Why is this green? This is a white card. This is a white card.
Yeah,
Whites should be drawing cards like this.
You're right.
White needs help, for God's sake. And you're like, we'll just throw this thing over to green. Not like they're going to play with it. They already have so many overpowered things. There's no hope of this team playing a green deck. So you could just give it to the white weenie deck that would want to do something cool like this. It's fine. The point is, the flavor on this thing is a monster home run.
It's so cool.
It's the gold token. It's that gold token that really seals it.
It really sells it, yeah.
Yeah, if it was just 1, 2, 3, I think we'd be like, okay, fine, made a thing, it got bigger, whatever.
But they want the gold medal.
They want the gold medal. That's so dope. I think that's great. This card is super sweet. All right. So we were talking about cards that did stuff that's on banned cards. I don't know what's happening in my world. I don't understand.
I've read your reactions in your voice. Like, I just imagine you losing your mind when so many of these cards come out. You just can't.
I can't. I grew up, man. This isn't like my teenage Magic crap no more, man. Y'all are playing with some crazy bazooka tank battleship. What the hell is going on with Purphoros, bronze-blooded? This damn thing, it's got sneak attack on a stick, on an indestructible enchantment. Have we lost our minds?
Yep.
For a red and 4 generic mana, you have a 7/6 casual 5 mana 7/6. You put that in red, of course. It's a legendary enchantment god. It's indestructible. As long as your devotion to red is less than 5, it's not a creature because, it's hard to get to. Other creatures you control have haste. Why not? Who cares, right? We're living in a whole new world. Whatever. For a red and 2 generic mana, doesn't even tap this thing. You can't just do it once a turn. You do as many times as you want. You play 5 mana to play this next turn. You got 6 mana. You're the world's your oyster, y'all. Because you may put a red creature card or an artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. We are about to have a block called Ikoria, Land of Behemoths. And I'm pretty sure those creatures are going to be freaking huge. And there's going to be some big artifact creatures and some huge red creatures. And there's plenty of awesome, sweet red creatures you could already do this with, like Drakaseth or whatever, the big 8-mana dragon.
You can also chain Ilharg. So, you can do the Ilharg thing. You could sneak Ilharg out. Then Ilharg gets a trigger. And then there's your fatty.
It's ridiculous. It's on a what? What are they doing?
Yeah.
This card freaks me out, man. Oh.
I think that this is my favorite commander of the set.
Yeah,
because
it'd be really cool.
I really want Balefire Dragon. I think that's a cool one.
Sure.
The card Breaker of the Heavens exists, which sounds really fun with this.
And flavorful. It's Theros.
Yeah, right?
Oh,
so
God.
There's a bunch of cool stuff to do with this, and not the least of which is just mere Battlesphere or whatever in Commander. But even in younger formats than Commander, Pioneer or Modern, you want this kind of effect for things like now it does not sneak in Eldrazi, which is a good stopgap solution, but Blightsteel Colossus exists in Modern. Go nuts.
Standard, you could even just settle for a Meteor Golem.
Sure.
I'll take a Meteor Golem for 3 with a Vindicate attached, and then you don't even have to try. We can aim for the fences, or you can play reasonably fair and still do dumb things.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. There's the new double strike dragon thing, Terror of Mount Velis, which is
that comes in the Planeswalker deck. But yeah, that thing's really good.
It comes in the Planeswalker deck. Is pre-ordering for $20. This one dragon, there's a 7-mana 5/5 dragon that has flying and double strike, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. Good God.
Yeah.
This is the one you probably want to put into play with Purphoros, which is why now it's $20 freaking dollars. Yeah. Purphoros is I don't even know. I don't know what's happening in my life right now. These Magic cards just blow my mind. And then sometimes they hurt me. They make me sad because we're so far into a power level that
beyond the pale.
I'm just at some point, you start to have this. And games will do this. I mean, let's look at X-Wing. X-Wing just released version 2.0 of X-Wing, so they could A, sell you all the models back to you again, or B, make you buy an expensive kit to turn your models into 2.0. They just power crept that game to hell. That's what happened. That game died because, or at least that game died, sort of competitively because they just power crept for years. And then they went, oh, everything's too busted. And they just reset it back down to the bottom at version 2.0. We can't do that with Magic. Magic's got too much. And if you see a game like Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they've done nothing but push and push and push and push and push and push and push, everything's ridiculous. Everything's over the top. Everything does everything. There's a million words on all the cards. It just gets exhausting, honestly. All right, we'll move here to number 3. I don't have one. It's my last hire. Ruben, what's your number 3?
My number 3 tells a story, and this one is of Achilles, one of the famous heroes of the Trojan War. who legend has it was dipped into the river Styx. Everything except for his Achilles tendon. And of course that was his undoing. And so when you have an Achilles heel, you only have one weakness. And Haktos the Unscarred only has one weakness. Red, white for a 6/1 legendary creature human warrior attacks each combat if able. As Haktos enters the battlefield, choose 2, 3, or 4 at random. Haktos has protection from each converted mana cost other than the chosen number, which includes 0, 1, and 5+. So Haktos, I mean, it's a random action generator. Like, you don't know what you're going to get, but you can certainly block Nissa lands, right? Like, you're not getting Agent of Treachery or anything. Like, this thing is it's gonna get in there unless you happen to win your 3-way coin flip. And have, like, it doesn't have protection from Fobulthup the Lost or something. But yeah, this is a hilarious addition to the flavorful cards of the set.
So
this card made me want to play Boros.
Yeah.
And I'm the furthest thing from a Boros player.
Wow.
I saw this card and I was like, I want to play a Boros commander deck. Like, not only that, but I mean, look at them thighs. Like, oof.
Yeah. Look, all I'm saying is, if Achilles was dipped in the river Styx, I was dipped in the river Credence Clearwater Revival, like all the way in.
Wow, that was a long walk, but there was water in the well.
There was. I hope I did. I kind of stumbled. It's fine. Haktos the Unscarred was my number 8. I love this card. This card is a home run. They tried to do this apparently in the first Theros set, and they didn't get it in there. This one just has the ability to kind of just run away with the game. This is playable possibly in Modern Humans, as like everyone just plays 1 mana spells, and maybe you'll get the right number possibly to block it and or kill it. You're never going to fatal push it, for example.
Take on a Primeval Titan.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this card is sweet. Like, I think this card's super cool. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it never gets anywhere. Yeah. But if you're going to show like what's the Achilles heel card of Magic, and you give this to somebody, it just makes so much sense, and I love it. I think that's great.
And the arms too.
And then buff arms. That's right. Got tickets to the gun show, as it turns out. All right, let's move on here to number 3 for Aaron. What you got?
My number 3 is the only higher on my list.
Ooh.
Well, okay, we both had a higher number 3.
Oh.
Good. That means we can move on here to number 2. Ooh. Aaron, what's number 2?
My number 2 is one of the most exciting cards I've ever seen from the set. I remember when this card was spoiled, it came out on the same day as the Woe Strider. So we started off with the Woe Strider, and I already couldn't feel my face. I was just like, what is happening? And then another card came out, and I think this was like either the second or the third one, but it was a long day because it was nothing but exciting cards that I would absolutely love. And I saw this, and I just couldn't believe it. I had to read it and then reread it and then close my jaw. And then Ben Bleiweiss from Star City had tweeted something, and he said, does anyone else look at this and see dredge 15 or draw 15 cards? And I was like, me! My number 2 is Ox of Agonas, or Agonas. So Ox of Agonas is 3 colorless and 2 red. It's a creature type Ox with 4 power and 2 toughness. When Ox of Agonas enters the battlefield, discard your hand and then draw 3 cards. Okay. It also has Escape of 2 red, which is the price of a Conflagrate. Exile 8 other cards from your graveyard. When Ox of Agonas escapes with a +1/+1 counter on it. This card is so good that there are theory crafters in the Dredge Discord right now that think this is good enough to cut green entirely from Modern Dredge. No life from the loam, no nothing.
Wow.
Do you realize how big of a deal that is? That this is that good? It's currently going for about $6 or $7 in terms of pre-orders, but this is a mythic rare. This card is terrifying, and just when you look at this, I mean, this enables just so many dumb strategies, and at 2 red,
The egregiousness comes because it gets a counter. Mm-hmm. Why the hell does this thing get a counter when you're escaping?
You'll dredge 15 and you'll get a 5/3 Boar.
No, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so unnecessary. It's like,
you
think I wouldn't play it if you've been given that counter? Like, come on.
It's the icing on the cake, but it's a really good cake. This is also calling back to the labors of Hercules. This is the Cretan bull. The bull that is so powerful that that Zeus himself had to put him on the island of Crete, etc., etc. This is the one that they pushed. This is the mythic that they were like, you know what? Let's like jiggle the numbers around to be the lowest mana, the most cards, and see what people do. And it's terrifying.
Yeah, this card is like it's hovering right now in the $6 or $7 range. That is if it's broke, it's gonna double. And if it's not very good, it'll go down to like $3 and stay there forever. But yeah, this is the time where if you wanted to bet big on Ox, this is your chance. Ruben, what's number 2?
My number 2 is, it makes me happy in every single way. Both of my top 2 are like the most flavorful of a flavorful set. It's perfect. The ability harkens back exactly to what you want to harken back to. The art tells the story of the tale that it's referring to. The title has the word hubris in it, and nothing is more full of hubris than the tale of Icarus, and Wings of Hubris is my number 2. It's an artifact for 2 colorless mana. It's a common. The equipped creature has flying, and if you sacrifice the Wings of Hubris, equipped creature can't be blocked this turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. It equips for 1. Delicos's invention worked until it didn't.
Oh, so this is a callback to Icarus. This is the phrase "flying too close to the sun."
Yep.
You know, he wanted to fly, and then his wings burned up, and so this is perfect. Like, just the art is beautiful. I love what it does. That you have to, you'll get your unblockable, but then you got to sacrifice the creature. I just love. It's just reasonably costed. Just love it. I love it.
Right. This is one of those, you don't activate the ability unless you're going to win that turn.
And sometimes you do. You know, if you're playing a really aggressive deck, that's all you need. You just need that one shot to punch through, and that sacrifice just won't matter.
Yeah, or multiple times, honestly. First of all, you're giving your creature evasion to start with, which is usually great. But if it's just, look, I'm going to sacrifice this 3/3, hit you for 3. Next turn, my turn, I'm going to sacrifice this 2/2, hit you for 2. Like, you can wind someone down with a card like this. In Limited, this card is terrific.
Yeah.
And honestly, cheaper than I was expecting. Like, this could have cost 3, to start with. So, let's just push the random limited uncommons.
I love, Cobbled Wings is one of my all-time favorites, and the fact that you can end games of limited is a big deal, and so I really like this.
So, number 2. This card is stupid. This card is absolutely ridiculous. This card is the result of Wizards saying this is our new normal. This is what you get to play with. Oh my god. This is what you get to play with. In green and blue, who clearly needed the help, who really needed the best growth spiral of all time, who really needed to take the idea of a very low converted mana cost of very high power and toughness to give it an ability that gets to trigger every single time you're able to get it into play, blink it when it's in play, escape it back to the battlefield. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath, is absurd. It's
more like
Ruh-Roh. Uro?
Ruh-Roh, Scooby-Doo.
That's right, Ruh-Roh. I didn't hear you. So Ruh-Roh, Titan of Nature's Wrath, is a blue and green.
Raggy.
A blue and green of generic mana for a 6/6 legendary elder giant. It's mythic, of course, because it has 800 words on it. When Uro enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. When Uro enters the battlefield or attacks, that means every time it attacks, you also gain 3 life, draw a card, then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. You escape it for 2 green, 2 blue, and exiling 5 other cards from your graveyard. This card's stupid. I don't even know where to begin. Like, this is dumb. This thing just does everything.
It does everything, and it slots perfectly into decks that exist already. The blue-green ramp, Risen Reef, Nissa, big mana thing already exists. This is also really cool in Commander, as you basically go turn 3, cast it, turn 4, unearth it, it dies, turn 5, cast it, turn 6, or turn 4, unearth, or, unearth it again. Really cool. Elder Giant, I think, is like one of my new favorite creature types.
It's really cool.
That's a really cool line of text. Yeah, this card's just great.
The Pioneer Dredge folks are surprisingly excited about this, and I love the art. They gave it to Vincent Prost, where if you want creepy and you want spooky and scary, give Vincent the art. I love this. You know,
Vincent
you don't often
also
see...
did the red-black type as well.
You don't often see blue-green get, like, terrifying cards. You know what I mean? Like, you might get some extra limbs. You might get, like, the Simic nonsense, but, like, this is creepy. Like, you look at the texture, you look at sort of the ragged, almost like seaweed hair, you look at how giant it is, that it's chained to something, you look at all the wreckage below it. This card is just terrifying in terms of what it does, and the art is just a home run.
The thing is, it's just, it is very much terrifying in a whole variety of interesting ways. Of, like, you really thought in a world of the goose and Oko that Uro was time to jump in there with them? Is that the boat we're swimming in these days? Goodness gracious.
We banned Oko, so we needed a 3-mana, 3-letter legendary permanent to put in its place.
Goodness gracious. All right, let's move on here to our number 1. Aaron, what's your number 1?
This is the card that was also previewed the same day as the Ox and the Woe Strider, I believe, to where all I could do was just say, oh my god, over and over again, because I could not believe what I was seeing. Shortly after, people started speculating all of the neat ways that you could break this card in half. Riley Knight, I believe, recently did a bit of a fundraiser for Australia where he was asking people to take bets on how long you think this card is going to last, because there's just no universe in which this card doesn't do stupid things. Lion's Eye Diamond says hello. My number 1 is Underworld Breach.
God, this card. God.
So Underworld Breach is 1 colorless and 1 red for an enchantment. I've got the broken giggles.
Got the broco giggles, that's
Each
right.
Evan's face. Evan's face is what's killing me. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Underworld Breach. It's like a Past in Flames or a Yogg-Will on steroids. Anything. I mean, you can do just the stupidest things with this card, and I cannot wait to see how people just break this baby in half.
I just, when Wizards is like, I'm going to fly this flag if I don't give a crap about the old formats. This is the picture on that flag. They're like, that's what we stand for. We stand for, in standard, this thing is probably going to be fine. Maybe it's great.
It's going to be fine.
But anything, as you continue to go backwards, it just gets dumber and dumber and dumber. It's completely absurd. I don't know what in the world this card is. I don't know what they're thinking. I hope I hope I'm wrong, right? I hope this card is not as busted as hell as it looks. I can't get around it. This card is dumb. This is my number 3. What are we doing in our lives right now that this card is okay? What?
I also, another card that's like, man, I really wish we had the Theros story to be able to tell us what the Underworld Breach looks like.
Yeah.
Everybody's breaking out like it's Arkham Asylum in the first 10 minutes of Dark Knight. Like, tell me what's happening with the story. For me, obviously the older the format is, the more broken things are, and this scales nicely with Lion's Eye Diamond and, Rite of Flame kind of cards and those things. But in Standard, this is also a Snapcaster Mage. This is also just play 2 or 3 cards from your graveyard. Get back a couple of creatures.
It's anything. It's anything.
If you have 12 cards, what are we going to do? Yeah, 12 cards in your graveyard. And you go, all right, I want to play a land for the turn. We now have 8 cards in the graveyard. I want to play a creature. We now have 4 cards in the graveyard. I want to play another creature. We now have 4 cards in the graveyard. You just drew 3 cards for 2 mana. And you can't play cards that you cast this game already.
Well, each non-land card gets escaped, so you can't play the lands.
Fine.
But
so we play a land on turn 8, right? And then go play a 2-drop, play a 2-drop, play a 4-drop.
Like in your red deck, just to rebuy, for example, Modern Burn or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Just to rebuy some lightning bolts. Like, that's all you gotta do. Like, you don't care about those other cards in your graveyard. Like, this is Grim Lavamancer on, performance enhancing drugs. Okay, it's on 2020 Magic Design.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. This card is unbelievable.
Card is absolutely ridiculous. I highly anticipate this one in standard at least being in the red-blue kind of Phoenix style decks, the spell-based kind of decks. And then, of course, as you go further back, you get into storm things and spell combo of various types. Yeah, it's absurd.
You can play this card in fires. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It hurts me. That's what it does. It hurts me. Lordy. Ruben, what is your number one?
My number one... So, there are a lot of flavorful cards, and I wasn't expecting every story to get told. But I was pleasantly surprised to see this one get told, and in such a beautiful way. It got previewed to me through our Patreon Discord, and I didn't really know what to expect. And then I looked at it and was like, wow, they actually translated that story perfectly. And the other thing that I really love about this card is I, too, am often distracted with my own beauty. I am perfect in every way, shape, and form, and I'm distracted by my own reflection in the mirror of my laptop as I stare at myself as we record this, like I'm doing right now.
From your closet?
From my closet.
From his closet.
By myself, because much like Narcissus, I'm in love with my own reflection. And much like Narcissus, so is Athreos Enraptured. Athreos Enraptured is a 2 colorless and a blue, 2/3, legendary creature human. Athreos Enraptured enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step if you control a reflection. When Athreos enters the battlefield, create a 3/2 blue reflection creature token.
How cool.
That's so cool. How cool is that?
And because the reflection's a 3/2 instead of him being the 2/3.
2/3.
So that's why it's swapped around.
It's also 5 power and 5 toughness across 2 bodies in blue, so that's not nothing. This is just a really solid mid-range creature as well. I wouldn't be shocked if this saw some amount of play somewhere.
I mean, you're in the battlefield to make a 3/2, and then I'm like, you have Thassa who would come out on turn 4 to just blink it, and you get another 3/2, and then every turn you're getting free 3/2s until they kill this stupid thing, and it's got 3 toughness, not 2, so Shock's not going to take care of it.
Right.
Like that, I could very well be legitimate. No, actually,
why would I ever want to look away?
Yeah, I mean, because even if it's, I was going to say, oh no, it's legendary, but you'll just sacrifice the legendary copy and just keep getting 3/2s. Like, you don't care. Whatever. That's incredible.
Right. Just make Warpath ghouls over and over again. And if they all die, oh well, now you have a blind phantasm. Who cares?
Wow. Yeah, like a card is, and for flavor reasons, it's terrific.
It's a thing of beauty.
It is a thing of beauty. I'll tell you what a thing of freaking beauty is. My number one. Which I'm sure both of you have probably deduced.
My number 3.
Oh, good. Oh, that's right, because power of elimination.
The 3 also is relevant with this card.
It's true. What were we doing? What is life? What Wizards capped off a spoiler season in the best way they could. Now,
they did.
Technically, it wasn't the end of the spoiler season, but whatever. It was the last Mythic, and the last Mythic can't suck. And the last Mythic doesn't suck. In fact, it is so completely absurd. I don't even know where to start anymore. What is anything? Nyxbloom Ancient is 3 green, 4 generic mana for a 5/5 mythic enchantment creature elemental. Because it's elemental, because it also triggers Risen Reef, because who cares about anything anymore? It has trample. If you tap a permanent... That's a creature, that's an artifact, that's a land. If you
that's a treasure token.
Yep, if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. Are you serious?
Why?
What is going on in our lives right now?
Yeah, really, why?
The commander players lost their minds. The standard, this could easily see competitive play. It's not hard for green to get to this point. There's gotta be a way that you can win the game when you slam this. I mean, and just, you look at the crazy artwork and just, I mean, I remember the day that this was spoiled on Twitter and my feed had just blown up. People could not believe this.
This card's amazing.
It goes infinite with Basalt Manolith.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you have a Nyx Lotus and nothing else in play, and play this, you then have 9 green mana, which is hilarious.
which is
I'm not sure how much competitive play this is actually going to see. It seems like a lot.
I have to try it.
But
we have Nissa.
You gotta try it. Who knows? And obviously, Commander, it's absurd.
Yeah, but if you untap with Nissa, you got mana to play this thing. Sure. Immediately. And if you kept making your land drops, you've got mana left over after you've cast this thing in a potential blue-green shell.
Right.
Every
forest taps for 6.
I can't. I think it actually taps for 4 or something, but whatever. The point is,
it does tap for 4.
I can't remember. It's worded in a weird way. The point is, this card is stupid. This card is just my God, we are reaching these weird power level creep hinges, and normally we'll hit these things, right? We will go up to these new exciting power levels, maybe 1-2 cards out of the set, where they really, really pushed it, and you're like, wow, man, that one card super awesome, right? And that other card was super cool, but whew, that was the end of that set. Man, we got half a dozen stupid, crazy things that do way more than they've ever done ever at the mana cost that they're giving us. And this is our new normal. Triple the mana. That's it. And that was our top 10 Theros Beyond Death cards. You will see them on screen now for your review. Take a look at my list, Aaron's list, Ruben's top 10. And we want to hear from you about what card we did not talk about. And we'll select our favorite to win a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-host. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me. And be sure to tag us in your Nessian boars.
That's right. Thank you, Ruben.
Antiosas. Which is apparently goodbye in Greek.
Nailed it. Okay. And we go to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-host, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv at magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicecast, our Magic Mike subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes and Spotify. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.